Time now for news from the ENCA Money Desk. Rofhiwa Madzena joining me in studio. And Rofhiwa, we're talking tax and invitation to submit proposals for the 2021 budget.
That's right, Sally, and that essentially means government is asking where can we get more tax revenue. And that's essentially asking South Africans, as I've just mentioned, to engage government on where taxes for the coming year can be derived from. And the categories they are looking at include income tax, that's individuals, employment and savings, and other taxes, for example, VAT. Joining me now to unpack this further is Zweli Mabhoza, who's the founder of Priority Tax Solutions. Zweli, many thanks for your time this evening. Would it be correct to say that the most obvious that would be engaged upon mostly would be the value-added tax when we talk about the 2021 budget?
Look, I think what is this is the let me explain the process. What normally happens is that each and every year the taxpayers and tax advisors are invited by National Treasury to make submissions on things that they would like the Minister of Finance to deal with from a tax perspective. Then what happens is that now, after that, National Treasury, they invite a meeting, and in that meeting, they actually discuss some of the points before they actually appear in the budget speech. And then after they've appeared in the budget speech, then the next step is to legislate. And then taxpayers will comment on that. So what is going to happen is that generally taxpayers, they always look for reliefs. They look for certain things that are ambiguous in the tax legislation. And then they make suggestions along those lines to say, maybe we need to change this. You need to change this because it is not clear. This is stifling the economy. Maybe you need to do away with that. But what we need to also remember is that in those discussions, we also have SARS. And generally, SARS, they look for opportunities to increase the taxes. They normally keep their cards close to their chest. They don't say anything in those meetings in terms of what they want to, for things that they want to appear in the budget speech. Generally, those things, they come as a surprise. And most of the time, those things are relating to what you're asking now. Where can we increase taxes? How can we make sure that we collect more? But what I can share now with the viewers of ENCA is that what we know is that in the budget speech last year, the Minister of Finance, in fact, let me say this year in February, the Minister of Finance mentioned that they are looking at instances where they can limit the deduction of tax losses. And by limiting the deduction of tax losses, they are hoping that now they are actually going to increase the taxes. But if you were to ask me what is the best way to increase the tax collections, the best way to do that is to actually implement the existing legislation, look for people who are not in the tax net, expand the tax net as much as they can, and make sure that everybody is paying tax, including some of the businesses that are registered as businesses, but that may not be registered from a tax perspective.
We're going into the next budget speech in the COVID-19 era. So I'm very interested to know how would we start to increase that tax net that you're talking about?
You see, if you go to a number of small towns, not just only small towns, in fact, even in big towns, you find a number of businesses that are transacting purely on a cash basis. That tells you that chances are high that those businesses are not paying tax. That's one. Two, they can actually go to SIPs and find out which entities are registered there that are not registered from a tax point of view. Even if they are registered from a tax point of view, where they are filing their tax returns. Even if they are filing their tax returns where they are paying tax. For those entities that are not registered from a tax point of view, they need to find the reasons why those entities are not registered. For those entities that are registered but are filing the tax returns but are not paying tax, they need to understand why are those entities not paying tax. And I think there's a lot that can come out of that. And you've got a lot of some of the transactions that are quite complex. They also need to make sure that SARS has got expertise to also look at those transactions and navigate those transactions and make sure that those transactions are not necessarily intending to avoid tax. If they have expertise that can be able to find their way and understand those transactions, you may find that that could be another source of income. So we've actually seen in the past that SARS has lost a lot of expertise. People left SARS people were quite good. They need to make sure that they attract those people back into the tax to become part of SARS, so that they can be able to actually implement whatever they want to implement, because it does not help to change the legislation if that legislation cannot be implemented.
Right, and just a final thought from you. Is it sustainable to increase taxes like VAT? I mean, just anticipating that we might see something along those lines, especially because SARS continues to report on tax collection deficits. Should we not be focusing on fixing government economic fundamentals before we can look at tax revenue being a sustainable contributor to the economy?
You see, the question that you're asking is very important. Because not long time ago, on the 1st of April 2018, VAT increased from 14% to 15%. The question that we have to ask is to say, how much did we generate out of that increase? It's very, very limited. I do understand, because the tax authorities, to some extent, they mentioned that what they did, they decided to actually release the refunds that were supposed to be paid for some time back. But even if they did not do that, the impact of that 1% from 14% to 15%, it's not that great. And the reason for that is because irrespective of how much you increase the tax by, if the economy is not growing, it will have little impact. So the main thing that we need to be doing is to say, how can we grow the economy so that businesses can be profitable? Remember, tax is tax on profits. If people cannot spend because they don't have money, then you're not going to have VAT either. So it is very important to look at those dynamics and see what is the best way to make sure that we grow the economy, so that as we grow the economy, businesses can start paying tax, because you cannot pay tax if you don't have money.
Right, we're going to have to leave it, and we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, Zweli. We've run out of time. That is Zweli Mabhoza, who's from Priority Tax Solutions.